Hello, my friends. Welcome to the show. Today is an episode centered around one of the most important topics to me in my life, which is health and wellness. By now, you know that I'm kind of a fanatic about this stuff. Well, I don't know if I'd say a fanatic. I'm passionate about it. I'm very, very passionate about it. And it's simply because it's what I spend the majority of my life studying and learning and helping people with in various capacities. I've been in acupuncture for 15 years, and that allows me to help people with every facet of their health. I was a fitness instructor in Portland for 10 years, and that was just so fun. It's such a huge passion of mine to be able to share those experiences with people. Group fitness is such a great way to connect and improve our health. I love it. And then since I started coaching, I've been able to work with people on their health in a different way, primarily, around mental, emotional health and mindset. And then, as you know, I own another company called Optimize You with my business partner, and we run group coaching programs to help people heal their metabolism and return to their greatest health and vitality. So I mean it quite literally when I say I think about this stuff every single day. But that's not really new. I have been this way for a long time. It's always been something that's felt very important in my life. When my dad passed away of leukemia, in 1989, I was 7 years old, and I didn't know anything about health and wellness then, but it was during that time that I started to understand a few things. I started to realize that not every body has the same experience on earth. Not everybody has the same health or the same opportunities. I also started to realize that not every practitioner or doctor or hospital were the same. I mean, he went to Seattle to be treated because they didn't have the technology or the facilities in Portland to handle his type of leukemia at the time. It was also my first awareness that life is short and it's not guaranteed. And I didn't really understand a lot about that at 7 years old, but I remember thinking, wow, you're telling me that this life isn't guaranteed? Like everybody could have a different experience and it could end. I remember thinking about that. And I remember thinking, like, we don't know what's going to happen to each one of us in our life. And it just gave me a new reverence for health, even at a young age. It was when I was 18, I had my first true health crisis. And it was when a piece of cartilage broke off in my knee my freshman year at college. It was a few weeks into my first term. I went to Oregon State. I remember I was in my dorm room and I knelt down to pick something up and I felt and heard a pop. It was that stupid. I was leaning over and pop. It hurt so bad, I could barely stand up, and it scared the hell out of me. I had been playing basketball throughout high school. So really, since I was in third grade, I was playing year-round basketball for club teams and school teams. And throughout my freshman through senior year, I had quite a bit of knee pain. It was pretty constant. But as I got close to graduation in my senior year, I was having more and more knee pain. And up until that point, I had really largely been ignoring it because I didn't want to deal with it. I didn't want it to get in the way of my playing or being able to run or train. But that day in the dorm room was the pinnacle of what I discovered to be a long brewing case of what they call osteochondritis. It's a condition that happens in the knee where the blood supply to the end of the tibia starts to die off and that cartilage becomes brittle and breaks. And that's exactly what happened to me. And so the result was a very invasive knee surgery. This was back in 2000, so they don't do things the same anymore. But it led to 3 months of being on crutches and absolutely no weight bearing. And that's a lot as a freshman in college, returning to school their second term on crutches. It scared me. It was really mentally challenging. And yes, because I went to school in Oregon and it rained a lot, I definitely fell a couple of times on my crutches. I remember slipping on the linoleum floor in a pizza place, and it was just like the most embarrassing thing ever. But it was a real shakeup for me, a big perspective check. And maybe you've experienced this before, but whenever you have an injury or an illness or some big health crisis that keeps you from being physically capable or physically active, it's a major perspective check. It's almost like it challenges who you are a little bit. It puts your identity in question. And you'd give anything to be able to move the way you want and do the things you want. I would look at people running down the street and feel so incredibly jealous that they had the capacity to do that. I mean, people walking up the stairs, I was like, how dare you? And this was a really big mental roadblock for my wife, Leanne, when she was going through her breast cancer treatments. I remember us having lots of conversations around the fact that she was just depressed and down, that her physical capability, and she's a very physical person, had really been stripped away because of her treatments and her surgeries, and how hard that was mentally for her. I mean, this takes a toll on people. And so today you're going to hear me say something that you've probably heard dozens of times before in your life. And that is, health is everything. It is, baby. Health is everything. You think everything's so important until you're sick, and then you realize that nothing matters without your health. And I wanted to do a podcast episode on this because it seems that no matter how many times we hear this in our life, it's so easily forgotten. And I understand why that is. It's quite like the oxygen we breathe. It really isn't top of mind that we're breathing until we can't breathe anymore. And then it becomes the most important thing to us in that moment. It is beyond urgent and nothing else matters. It's very much like that when we have a health crisis. But unlike the example of breathing oxygen, doing the everyday consistent things to take care of our health doesn't always feel that urgent. I mean, we can easily fall into a complacency where we just let things slide. We don't think it'll matter that much. We often think that we have this endless horizon of a timeline, and if we don't take great care of our health now, we can always start later. No big deal. Now, I completely understand that because I felt that exact way for a really long time, but now I'm 42 years old, and it's more important to me now than ever to take care of my physical, mental, and emotional health in this life. I don't know if you guys watch that show Hacks. I love that show. But there's a scene where Deborah, who's in her 70s, and she's played by Jean Smart, is talking to her younger coworker, Ava, who's probably in her 30s, and she's describing to her, you have endless opportunities to try things and fail, but I don't have that luxury anymore. Everything I do now might be my only chance to do it. And it's so true. We gain that wisdom as we get older, but I try to impress this on everyone again and again so that they don't have to rely on a health crisis to shake them awake, or they don't have to wait to have this realization until they're in their 60s or their 70s. Now, I won't go into all the things that I would recommend in terms of optimizing physical health because you've heard me talk about that before, and I'm sure you have a fairly good base of common knowledge. That can be a conversation for another time. But what I do want to emphasize is the timeline. And what I mean by that is I want to encourage you to stop waiting. Stop waiting to improve your health or pay attention to it or honor it. Start now, please. And don't limit it to just your physical health. Include your mental and emotional health also. When I'm working with coaching clients, it's the emotional and mental health that are really the stumbling blocks for people. And there's so many reasons for that, but I think it's largely because it's less clear how to improve these states of being in comparison to improving our physical health. So what do I mean by this? Well, for example, we have to deal with our limiting beliefs and our fears. We have to address the stuff that influences our mental and emotional health. We have to address the saboteur voices in our head. I truly believe that our limiting beliefs and our fear, I truly believe that it makes people sick. And when you look at the science around the emotion of fear and how it signals what's called the cell danger response, it's a process that's happening at a biological cellular level. And it's actually very easy to see that fear and other negative emotions can have a tremendous impact on our physical health and can very much make people ill. Beyond that, we as humans, we just have so much mind trash. And I do think it's part of the human experience because of how we live in a lot of ways. Within culture and society, there are a lot of negative paradigms and constructs that can contribute to this mind trash. And yes, we're all working on those things and we've come a long way, but you can see the impacts of it. You can see the impacts of these paradigms and these constructs that are at play. There's a lot of depression and anxiety and stress in the world. There is a lot of isolation for people right now, loneliness. There's deeply ingrained worry and fear about the world because of how much news and social media we consume. And I won't get into all the ways in which you might address those things. That's really what coaching is for, or various other modalities like therapy or acupuncture or EMDR or hypnotherapy or just general self-development. But my urge to you is to stop waiting and take some damn action so that you can feel like a more resilient, capable version of yourself. And you might be thinking, okay, well, what does that actually look like? And beyond hiring someone to assist you and support you, it does look like doing some of the simple things that really help us remain buoyant when life gets hard. Spend time outside, connect to nature. I mean, for God's sakes, we're so disconnected from the natural world. I see it in my teenagers and all these kids that are growing up in this generation on screens. I am that parent who regularly thinks to myself, I try not to say it out loud, like more than 5 times a week, but I think to myself, we were outside all day when we were kids. We left in the morning and we didn't come home till dinner. Like, the memes are true, people. I remember all of us neighbor kids were building a treehouse one summer and we spent entire days scavenging for scraps of wood and just being outside. And even though we probably lost every hammer that our parents ever had, it was awesome. And it's just different now. So many kids barely go outside. And it's truly frightening to me because they're missing out on that connection to the larger macro system that we are a part of, the natural world that reminds us that we are a part of something that is bigger than us. I think that's so important. Secondly, I would say manage your burnout. If you are in a place of feeling burned out with work or life, take stock of it all and find ways to manage it. And I recognize that you can't always immediately change the circumstances of your job or what's happening in your home, but the constant low to high level hum of chronic stress in the background, it's like that pot that you have on the back burner that you're not watching, that you're not paying attention to. It's going to burn. We have to deal with it, or it leads to a breakdown. And I don't say any of this in a cavalier way. I don't take this lightly or imply that it's always easy to deal with or sort out. I'm telling you this because it's necessary, because I've seen so many times what happens if you don't deal with the burnout, you don't manage it. And this often requires a little help, truthfully. And this is where coaches or mentors or therapists can really be an asset, part of your scaffolding, if you will. Another thing to do, spend time with other people. Actually get out in the world and engage with people. We have become a very voyeuristic society with this capability and capacity to observe individuals, including our friends and family online. We forget that we actually have to put down the phone and talk to people. Seriously, we just scroll through the lives of other people. And at this point, we're not even liking their posts or commenting on them. We're just watching. We're just taking it all in because we're so used to doing that. We're not even engaging at this point. But there's no substitute for human connection. We are wired for it. I want you to think about this. Since COVID, how much have you felt disinclined to go out and meet up with people or pick up the phone and talk to somebody or have meetings in person? I mean, it's crazy how isolated we have become as a result of the technology that we use and the habits that we've fallen into. But enough is enough. Get out into the world and engage. We have to make the effort. Give people compliments, lift them up, tell them they're doing a good job, have a fun conversation with somebody, ask questions, listen to people. It's about the interaction, and it has a huge impact on our mental and emotional health and our physical health on a very cellular level. And there are so many more things that we could talk about, but the message of this podcast is to truly let it sink in that health is true wealth. Honor it and do the things to nurture yourself the best you can. I'm not asking for perfection. I'm not interested in anyone becoming a biohacker. I just want you to remember that the body you live in is truly a miracle and not to take any of this for granted. So my challenge to you this week is to just do a simple little audit of your health. If you were to rate things on a scale of 1 to 10, maybe start with food and diet, your exercise routine, your sleep, And then also think about stress management, relationships, work enjoyment, spirituality, connection to nature, and whatever other buckets you want to look at, but rate it on a scale of 1 to 10 and look at that audit and see, where do I need to focus? What do I need to work on here? And let it be a jumping off point so that you can assess where you are and where you want to go. So I hope this spurred on some insights for you. I hope that you feel it in your bones that health is your greatest asset. And without it, we really, truly don't have anything. I know it might feel like reminders today, but that's okay because common sense is not always common practice. I appreciate you being here and listening. And until next time, as always, thanks for being ready to impact. Thanks for listening to Impact Ready. I hope today's episode inspired you to own your impact and recognize that you are powerful. By elevating our energy and awareness, we can create exponential change in this life. If you enjoyed today's insights, share them with a friend and subscribe to the show for more. I truly appreciate you. Thanks again for being here.